Sinai dresses are embroidered in ways similar to Palestinian dresses, particularly of the Bir Sab area. The embroidery will be predominantly red if a woman is married and blue if she is widowed. Ones with a mix of the two colors are worn by widows who have finished mourning and are ready to marry again, and the base fabric is black cotton. The ruku, as mentioned before, is decorated with gold, as well as silver and white metal pieces called hilyat. It will also be decorated with old coins and thin chains that end with silver pieces or coral tubes. There are two types, a short one worn by Akarsa women, and the longer one worn by Bayada women. Unmarried women do not cover their face and tend to wear slightly more fitted dresses. Women wear red belts called sufia, and the shawl married women covered with is called a kina or a korja, both of which are embroidered though not as heavily as the dresses. Young unmarried women cover their hair with something much more like a cap that has coins over the forehead, al-kishyasa, and a long trailing portion down the back called a wikaya or sada. While turquoise is well known as a natural resource of the region, it is not commonly used in jewelry. More common are seashells, semi-precious stones, and glass. 80 and 60 karat silver is commonly used in casted and molded pieces, particularly many varieties of bracelets and bangles. Some jewelry is beaded and stitched onto a leather backing. Some women adorn their hair with hilyat made of silver and colorful beads. Kirdan necklaces are uncommon in this region but not unheard of. The nose ring here is called a shenaf. The Seawall oasis was culturally more isolated than many parts of Egypt and is the only part of Egypt currently considered to be Amazigh land, though Amazighen lived throughout Egypt and have had a decently strong presence in Upper Egypt. Seawall bridal regalia is somewhat well known internationally and was infamously appropriated by Adele a few years ago. The most iconic dress is bridal, typically black or white, T-shaped, and has very wide sleeves. The black bridal dress is called an Ashira Hawak Asdaf, and the white one is called Ashira Nawak. It is embroidered in orange, black, green, and yellow. Along with this embroidery, tassels, mother-of-pearl buttons, and sequins are used as decoration. Mother-of-pearl buttons, called sadaf for the material, tut int fukt for the actual buttons, cowrie shells, agabez, and sequins are all considered to have protective qualities due to their shine and brightness, and are used to decorate bridal clothes as well as everyday clothes, accessories, leather jewelry, and household items. In recent years, sequins have grown in popularity as a decoration. The shoes associated with the wedding are made of red leather and feature heavy embroidery and thick tassels. The trousers are also in either black or white and heavily embroidered on the cuffs and lower leg, and close at the top with a drawstring. The head covering is called a troquet, and it is typically made of black silk or similar fabric, has lines of embroidery, and a tasseled edge. Traditionally, a Siwan bride would wear 7 dresses on her wedding evening, a white transparent one next to the skin, then a red transparent one, a black one, then yellow, blue, red silk, and green silk. A similar tradition of 7 garments is noted by Edward Lane in the cities he frequented, but only for wealthy brides. The motifs embroidered onto the wedding clothes include the sword, scissors, garden knife, comb, crescent, and seal, katem. These are all stylized, and the seal is a rectangle with triangles in it. It is commonly seen on the front of wedding tunics, the back, and on the cuffs of their sarwal. Traditional everyday wear includes a head covering of blue fabric once woven in kirtasa called a tarfutet, decorated down the center with embroidery, which joins the 2 pieces of fabric used to make it together. When a Siwi woman goes out to visit others, she will wear this, layered over a black face veil, and her best dress with a loose black dress over it. When arriving at the destination, she flips her veil backwards or pleats it on top of her head. When passing men in the street, a woman traditionally would hold the veil in her mouth so that all but one eye was hidden. The jurt is a men's garment made of a sheet of white wool or silk, which is also worn in Baharia, where some residents claim Siwan heritage. One of the distinct hairstyles worn in Siwa is the tukoset for married women. It was made of 99 strands of hair into 33 braids, 99 being a very important number in Islam. It had braids that hung over each cheek and crossed over the forehead. It was still worn into the mid-1980s. There is an older style which disappeared in the 1950s called the Tikiret, which is described as sculptural and focused on the back of the head. Photos from around this time show that small girls have their heads shaved, save for side locks and a lock on the crown. Older girls, about 9 years old, would have completely shaved heads. The hair grew back after this, and unmarried girls wore a style called kushit, of many braids that were arranged in a straight bang over the forehead. Another style, the titer boulen, which is simpler, is also worn. It features hair pulled away from the face and braided close to the head and hairline, loose around the shoulders, and the ends tied off with silken thread. Long hair is worn in the dafira, 2 long braids. Simple styles overall are preferred in recent decades, with fancier ones no longer being done. While the hair is braided, it is sometimes treated with a mix of pounded fig leaves and oil, which give it a sheen and make it more manageable to style. A married woman possesses the agra, silver and bead necklaces, large hoop earrings worn from the actual ear or from a red headband, bangles, rings, and hair ornaments among her jewelry. Different pieces would be worn in different combinations for different times. Everyday wear included the agra, earrings, necklaces, small rings and bangles, large pear-shaped ornaments for the hair, and any extra clothing or hair jewelry. For older women, this was the torque, earrings, and bangles, with any other favorites of hers. An unmarried girl would wear the adrim, agra, and timisnak. Men traditionally did not wear jewelry, save for small leather pouches containing amuletic papers worn around the neck in multiples of 3, 5, and 7. Silver jewelry in Seawall was decorated with 8 and 6-pointed stars, shooting stars, the sun, moon, 8-petaled rosettes, 4-petaled flowers, palms, crosses, circles, dots, almond shapes, eyebrows, zigzags, scallops, hatching, cross-hatching, triangles, diamonds, and stylistic representations of birds, snakes, and fish. The pieces themselves were usually made of geometric shapes, such as circles, squares, oblongs, ovals, and pentagons. Hollow, round, and rhomboid-shaped silver beads, along with amber, red coral, onyx, black glass, and green glass, would be strung into jewelry following mathematical ideals by individual women. Cheaper glass and plastic imitations would be used in place of, and even intermixed with, real stones. Many of these have certain amuletic qualities. Amber heals, red coral would help with fertility and warded off the evil eye, and white stone could be used to help with breastfeeding. Bead necklaces were always traditionally threaded with cotton. It will fasten with a loop made from the thread and a bead to slip through it. Another bead in blue, green, bright yellow, gold, or an eye bead will be threaded next to the fastener. On the tunic worn by married women, the square collar will sometimes have the motif of a tight coil embroidered onto it. Children and girls often wear slashed collars, which make V shapes on the front and the back when worn. The Ginglet is a silver heart-shaped amulet with a stone or glass set into it. It has bells attached to its bottom. Different colors and materials have different significance. Green stones promoted fertility, relieved mental stress and headaches, and could ensure marital harmony. Dark red was for blood and fertility. Blue stone was generally popular. The adrim and agra would be worn by girls from the age of 10 until they married, when the adrim was set aside and given to the girl's family or a younger sister. The symbolic giving up of childhood was done before a ritual bath at the spring of Tamusi. This and other rituals were overseen by a wedding specialist who was often a Sudanese woman. The agra was formed from a single unbroken piece of wire with a loop and hook closure. Margaret Mary Vail theorizes that this may have come from the Germanic Vandals and Byzantines, which could also be the origin of the tok, a similar metal necklace found elsewhere in Egypt. The adrim's center was decorated with a round boss or bulla, and sometimes decorated with granulation. It would have a cross emanating from the center and a border with other engravings alongside this. Gold discs were worn by wealthy women in Cairo for some time, though I do not know their similarity to the adrim. Another piece of jewelry is the Tashaba, a cylindrical amulet case much like those worn in other parts of Egypt. The rich would have one made of silver, while others made one in red goatskin, silk embroidery, mother-of-pearl buttons, and silver coins. Bells would hang from the bottom of both, and they'd be worn atop the adrim, suspended from the agra. The Sal Hayat is a necklace of 6 open-work pendants, hilal, red coral, and silver beads. It was worn during and after the wedding, and it was made in Tunisia in Libya as well as Siwa. The hilal is crescent-shaped with a prong extending from the center and is made in a variety of different designs, including a mask, fish, birds, stars, snakes, and plant motifs. The timisnacht is a close-fitting necklace of large round silver beads, red coral cylindrical beads, and green glass beads. From this, pentagonal silver pieces will hang on the ends of long chains, which may have beads set into them. This necklace is worn only by girls before marriage. The pieces are engraved with a border and naturalistic motifs. Sometimes a larger piece or a triangular cast open-work piece will be put in the center of the others. The latter is called a tilak sit. The tilak sit is worn here, on other jewelry pieces, and attached to clothes. The suidi is a net-beaded necklace made of coral, onyx, and silver beads. It is part of the bride's ensemble and continues to be worn afterwards, and some unmarried girls will wear them to weddings as well. These days, the silver bead, which is strung before the net starts, will sometimes be left out, since gold jewelry is preferred. When worn, the net is not easily visible, and the pattern looks like stripes. The ras Negbesen is made of cowrie shells, cylinder coral beads, and green glass beads, or sometimes only shells. These green beads sometimes have a crescent and star engraved into them. They are worn by brides for the wedding and during ceremonies, and young girls will wear them for yids. The Ilazim is a historic item and is not worn in Seawall today. It was made of large amber and silver beads with coral sometimes added in, which made it quite expensive. According to Margaret Mary Vale, quote, "The Ilazim necklaces I have seen in the oasis are threaded in sequence with 3 silver beads, followed by an amber bead, then by a bunch of 3 cylindrical coral beads or a composite bead, then by an amber bead, and then the pattern is repeated. Glass or synthetic plastic imitations often replace the coral and amber in these necklaces." End quote. The logit, or isudan, is a red leather headband decorated with mother-of-pearl buttons. From it hangs 6 flat loops of silver, sad, 3 of which rest over the ear, made either locally or in Libya. The Libyan ones are heavy, close with a hook and eye like the agra, and are stamped with simple designs. The ones made by Gab, a local silversmith, could be worn in piercings on the ear, often 2 or 3 at a time. A large mother-of-pearl button or silver coin might be suspended from these earrings. Wearing multiple earrings was done by women and girls, and boys under the age of 3 or 4 might wear one in one ear as well. The tilakin was a crescent-shaped piece worn by the bride hanging over the ears. It had bells hanging from the chains attached to it, and would be engraved with arabesque and floral designs. It could be worn hanging from a red leather headband, like the lugiyet, from a chain or from a girl's braids. The ligsas, by contrast, was worn at the back of a bride's head. It is made of a rhomboid silver bead, then an amber bead, then a silver ring. From this ring hangs 2 or 3 silver amulets, such as the hamsa, a fish, or Tashaba. Each of these would have 5 bells attached to their bottoms. A different form of ligsas would have a pear-shaped flat piece of silver hanging from its bottom. This is called a taziri, and 2 would have been worn in a bride's braids during the wedding. The third kind would end with a tilaksit. From the tilaksit, bells on chains hung, and it would be worn over the forehead and temple. The tadlilt is another piece of headgear made of red leather worn by brides. It is a headband with no more than 12 leather straps hanging from it. They are decorated with amber beads, mother-of-pearl buttons, or glass and plastic buttons. At the ends of the straps are bells or silver rings. At the center of her hairline, a silver, triangular, or rectangular flat ornament, hamsa, or tashbat, would be worn, with 5 bells from the bottom. Cast crescent and pear-shaped plates inscribed with verses from the Quran would also be worn in the hair. These were made in Cairo and worn by many others in Egypt. Silver coins and engraved silver discs from locals were placed in the braids too. Smaller ones were preferred for this use and to be hung on earrings in Seawall. Bangles in Seawall are made with a permanent opening and are of a few distinct types. The dimjun was daily wear, with 1 on each wrist. It was the narrowest bangle, engraved with an eye motif that has birds or a fish on either side of it. The suwar were larger, worn during and after the wedding, or for festivities. It has a large floral motif with a boss in the center of the flower. On each side of the bangle is a rivet with 3 bosses. It is silver and was still popular when gold was becoming preferred. The suwar are similar to other Amazigh bangles. Another wide bangle, the Dibbletisch, had a central vertical ridge with palm branch designs on either side and 2 small flowers near the opening on each side. The suwar and Dibbletisch were both made in Cairo, though the suwar was also made locally. The silver rings of Seawall were made with a flat bezel attached to a band. These rings would be worn on all but the index finger, and each finger had a shape of ring associated with it. Thumb ring had a square ring, the ring finger was oblong, the little finger was leaf-shaped, and the middle finger had a round ring worn by brides. This round ring was roughly 6 centimeters in diameter. Children wear silver anklets with bells, but adult women do not wear them and have not in living memory. A writer from the 1700s, Hornman, describes them as wearing anklets. They also do not wear nose rings, a practice common in the rest of the Western Desert and in Egypt overall. In Sharqiya, there are 2 notable dresses, the robe, which is similar to the folkloric dress, and el malas. The robe has variations based on a woman's age. A young woman wears a colorful cotton dress with a round neckline, waistline, and belt. The lower portion of the skirt will have a row of ruffled or pleated fabric. Floral and other plant-based motifs decorate the young woman's robe. Green is a favorite color for this form. An old woman's robe is black and has 3 forms: a conical form, a form with a squared neckline, with a pointed rectangular yoke, long sleeves, and pleating high up on the dress. A gore is added in the side seam called a samaka to this one. The third form has a yoke with, quote, 4 curves like the edges of a cup, unquote. The robes here are similar to photos of ones I've seen women wear in Manufia, which is close to Sharqiya. El Malas is named for the fabric it is made of, which alternates between stripes of flat fabric and textured fabric which resembles ruching. It is worn as an overdress when out of the house. The Rashida women wear patterned dresses with geometric appliques of ribbon and fabric. They wear a mask called an al-guna, a name shared by a similar item in Sinai. Many jewelry pieces consist of beaded collars and they use leather amulets. Their jewelry has some Sudanese and Nubian influence. Like Nubians, they call their nose rings zimzam. Their earrings are kursan, and their wide bangles are safa.